Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Right, today I'm going to give you a quick, well, when I say quick, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the statues I've found in recent months. Some of them going back to about a year ago, but mostly recently. One or two of them were found by other people, but they didn't really sort of publish them properly, I don't think. So I sort of took up the mantle and enhanced them a little bit for everyone to see. So now this is the latest one. This is the Mars Man statue. Looks like Alexander the Great. This is one of my favourite finds so far, and actually I found it using my new app. Now, some of you may already have this app, but if you already have it, I suggest you come back to this link because it's been updated quite considerably. I've added lots of new stuff. There's loads of new links and stuff on here. This is what it looks like now. Now, when I did my first review of this thing, there was only a few modules on here, but now I've added a load more, and it's a lot more complex, but it's still easy to use. You've got a whole bunch of websites here. You've got a load of research links here. I mean, the research links, as I said before, there are loads and loads and loads, and these are all multiple. Each of these sites will give you links to multiple images anyway. Sometimes 250,000 images on each of these. So you can imagine how many there must be altogether. There's somewhere between 5 and 10 million images linked from this page alone of links here. And not just from NASA, but from the JAXA, the Japanese mission to the moon. Also India, we've got the European Space Agency. We have the lot here. This is comprehensive, and in fact I don't think there's an app out there in the world that would give you quite so many links as this, as far as I know, because basically what I did is I got a lot of the NASA and ESA apps you can already get and then put them all into here. You will find them all here. You don't need all those NASA apps that you've got on your smartphone. They're all here. Okay, so if you want to get that, you can download it from my page, my main page on YouTube, or just go to the description below and there's a link to it. Okay, so just click on that and that'll take you through. And if you don't have an Android or whatever, or if you don't have a mobile phone, some people don't, you can just just click on the HTML5 version here, and then this will come up, this page, and you can just do that whenever you like. If you save this page here in your, like I've got here, this link up here, you can just click on the link and it will bring you back to it, and you will always have the latest version if you do that, because it will be updated from time to time. Now this is finished now, but it will be updated from time to time. So I just thought I'd show you that. There's a load of other channels on here. Some of my buddies on YouTube, Mars Discovery, Solar System Anomalies there. What's Up in the Sky, we got Mars Anomalies, we've got Mike Barrow, we've got Monty Williams, we've got Brian Forster, Graham Hancock, UFO OVNI, or UFO VNI, I should say. Ancient Aliens Radio, Rami from Facebook was turning out to be one of the top researchers now. He's coming up with some awesome stuff, this guy. He's well worth following on Facebook, this guy, honestly. He's got some great stuff. And there's a few news channels here. We got Wikipedia, we got space.com, we've got loads of stuff, and I'll probably add a few more to this, perhaps a few more alternative news sites, and maybe one or two more channels as well. So there we go. I thought I'd just let you know that if you already have this, you really should re-download it, because now it actually is a serious app and it looks better. I put new artwork on it and I've rearranged it a bit, and it just works much nicer and looks nicer. So, right, where do we start? Now, I've got a lot of stuff up here, so bear with me. This is the new video that I just put out yesterday, and this was a find that I was on my mobile device, actually, using that app. I went to the Gigapan and was just looking through the most recent Gigapans, from Sol 900 to Sol 1000. And I got to about 950 and I started finding quite a lot of weird stuff. Now, this statue is not far from this guy, which you can't see just yet. This is 952, Right, I'll let this play through. This is 952, so this is only a day or so after, oh God, this one, okay? Because this is 951, yeah, so it's a day later. So a lot of these finds are literally along the same spot. They're on, within 100 meters of each other. There's a whole bunch of them. And we got the Cyclops dude here. Let's let that run through. Now that's 952 as well. Okay, let's let that run through a little bit. And I had that up just to remind me what sol it was at the front there. And this guy is literally only meters away from that new Mars statue, which is this guy. Now, it's literally not that far. In fact, in some images you can see both of them. But they're too far away. Some of the panoramics show both of them in shot, but they're right in the back of the image, unfortunately. But luckily, the rover takes so many images that you just got to sift through the Gigapan site, which is great, and you will find more stuff that way because you can cross-reference images much better because you get a better overview of the whole area. It's no good looking at individual things, I think, a lot of the time because you cannot get a sense of scale or placement. You don't know where these things are really and how they relate to each other. So this is getting in a bit closer. I'll just play that through a little bit. Now, what struck me about this when I spotted it was the nose here, the shiny big nose and mouth here and chin, because there's a nice reflection on it here, and there's also what looks like a sort of a hairline here coming round. Now this is untreated, I haven't done anything to this. Here's the enhancement. Now, as you can see, there's lines going through this. Now, what I've done is I've blurred it up a bit to try and get rid of these compression lines, but unfortunately there's a compression line going right down through the face there, through the lips, nose, and between the eyes there. I think this is an eye here, and that's an eyebrow there. But the face is in sort of semi-profile, almost in profile. It's looking at an angle to us, which is probably why the face recognition software that they use over at JPL didn't recognise it, because I'm sure they do have this software, like you would get on your camera. I mean, this has been around for donkey's years now, and you get it on your mobile phone camera normally as well. Smile recognition, face recognition, that kind of thing. I'm sure they are using that to help them obfuscate some of these images, because when you actually look at this image up close, when you go to on the Gigapan, which has been white balanced and color corrected, when you go to that, it's very blue. The rocks look very dark blue. It's very dark and very blue, so it's obviously been white balanced and color corrected. Otherwise, it would be that horrible, crappy brown color. But it seems pretty obvious that this thing has been deliberately obfuscated, because if you look at the surrounding area, there's hardly any damage to the image. In other words, there's hardly any compression lines and blocks like we normally see. But when you get to this guy, there's blocks and lines going all the way over it, and you can see there's this line here. You can just about make it out. If I go back a bit, it might be more obvious. There we go. This is untreated. So you can just about make out this line going through here. There's another one going through here, and I think there's another one there, and there's some going this way as well, and that does distort the image. And I think there's this big blurred area here, which is like a blur tool that's been used on it, perhaps. It's hard to say because the image has been quite heavily damaged. But luckily, this guy's quite big. I estimate this statue to be something like 2 to 3 foot tall. Just this from the forehead up here to the chin. 2 or 3 foot, possibly slightly bigger. It's quite a long way off. It's very hard to tell exactly. But funny enough, I'll show you the guy that's not far from him. The Cyclops. Now this guy, this is also from a color corrected panoramic Gigapan shot, and you can see also that it's very blue and very dark, and it's been treated in the same way, so it's been white balanced and color corrected, but they've whacked the darkness right down, and this guy appears in dozens of photos. Sometimes he's quite close, sometimes he's much further away. Once you know he's there, if I show you his location, I'll go back a bit here. I don't know how much of his location we get to see. Now, the guy I just showed you, the guy that looks like Alexander, is right over to the left of this area, but he's not in this actual image. He's in the next image, or the one before. Can't remember which way around now. I'm getting confused now. But this guy basically is not very far from that new guy, the Greek-looking dude with the big nose. But this guy looks more like an Olmec. I mean, he's got a very large ear. He's got an eye, but a very small nose. And the nose may have broken off. But like I said before in my analysis, you can see his mouth there. But when you get too close to this guy, it doesn't get any better really, because there's not enough pixels covering this. Because even though this is from a TIFF image, there's only about 100 pixels covering that face. So it doesn't get any sharper when you get closer. But this guy looks more like an Olmec rather than an ancient Greek or Egyptian or something like that. So this may indicate that there are a number of different races on Mars, much like there is on Earth. There could have been multiple cultures up there, and some of them may have looked more Greek or Greco-Roman. Some of them may have been more like the Egyptians. Some of them may have been more like the Olmecs, like this guy, who were sort of African, basically. So who knows? And this is the raw image again, and you can see the eye on this guy. This is an astonishing bit of detail. The eye is there. When you brighten it up, you can see it. You can even see the pupil there. And when I enhance it a bit more, you'll see better detail there. There we go. I mean, that is astonishing. And that eye is definitely there. I haven't put that eye on. It was there before I enhanced it. That's what it looks like. So, and there's this guy. Now, just to the left of this guy, and a bit closer to the camera, is this guy. This is from the same image. And this guy is over here somewhere. I think right in the corner, over here. Okay. Now that Cyclops dude is right here, near the middle. And the Alexander Greek-looking guy isn't in this image, but is down here. If this image came lower, he'd be over here. So he's not very far. He's just on the next. He's just over this ridge and a bit closer. So they're all literally within 100 meters of each other, or less even. You know, it's really astonishing. So I do think this whole area, like I've said before, there were temples here, buildings here, and there were definitely tombs here for sure, because we were finding all sorts of things like little pyramids and tomb structures and tomb grave markers, that kind of thing. And I really do think there's a lot of stuff buried under here. I'd absolutely love to get a team of people and dig this place up. Just get there with a pick and a shovel, or just just an air hose would do it. Just blow the sand away with an air hose, or something like that, and just clear the sand. There's got to be dozens of buildings and tombs and structures here, and some of them may be full-blown pyramids under here, pyramidal structures, so the evidence now is, as far as I'm concerned, and many people are starting to say this, is getting quite overwhelming. There's still a lot of people out there that just refuse to look at the evidence. I mean, that's up to them, If they want to ignore it, let them ignore it. We'll just carry on doing the research and piecing it all together and trying to make sense of all these different finds and how they relate to each other, because I'm sure they all do. And this guy wasn't as clear as the others, maybe. I couldn't zoom back far enough with this guy because he was right at the bottom of the image, and so I could only really do a close-up. But I did some enhancements, and you can see a very clear mouth and nose. But he also has quite a small nose, this guy, unlike the Greek-looking guy that I just published yesterday. So there are very pronounced facial differences going on here. The Greek guy's here, and you can see he looks Caucasian. This is a heavily damaged image, so there could be a lot of damage here, and also the actual statue, if it is a statue, could well be quite badly cracked and broken as well, as many of them are. So, but unusually, this guy's nose is fully intact, unlike the others where they've been broken. And let me compare. I've got another image comparison here. I've got this one up here. Now, if you look at the facial proportions, they're remarkably human. The chin, the mouth, the nose, and the eyes, and the forehead. The forehead looks a little short, but we may be seeing it at a funny angle here. I think it's leaning back a little bit. It's on a slight slope, and it's not completely straight, so it's a little bit distorted. And also, there's probably a bit of lens distortion as well from the rover, like we normally get. So the shape may be slightly off here, just a little bit. But I've reshaped this image just to try and match it up. I just had to widen it slightly. So, but you can see the similarities. And one thing that I realised after I made the video is that this guy seems to have a beard, or at least sideburns or something coming down here. There seems to be some sort of curly structure here, and also this blurred spot here, which may be a deliberate obfuscation by NASA or JPL, may actually just be curly hair like this. And if you imagine that, you know, the camera cannot pick up all the detail because it doesn't have the resolution. So this may well be very detailed carved hair, this stuff here. But because we're not close enough, we can't see it. And what the camera has done is just kind of not picked up all the detail and just blurred it out, you know, as well as them over compressing the image. So it does seem like he's got sort of curly hair up the top here. If you look at the shadow here, it's remarkably similar. And I was looking at some other images of Greek. Now this guy is Alexander the Great. This is one of many depictions of him. And in the video, I'll just play the video through a little bit actually. We'll come back to this guy. Now, yeah, this guy looks like a gargoyle. It doesn't look particularly human, and it may just be a rock that looks like a face. But there are lots of other statues in the area, so I'm leaning with the statue idea for now because there are so many, and they're all literally within meters of each other. So yeah, this was the gargoyle, and this may be one of those things that you get like on a church, you know, or on a religious building. Okay, so we've seen that one. You can always go back and check through these. Now, what was I going to show you? Eris. Now, if you look at Eris, now Eris means Mars. Eris was the god of war in Greek mythology, and the Romans, like they did with everything, they ripped it off and they renamed it, and they called him Mars. But Eris is actually the Greek name for Mars, so the actual planet is called Eris. And basically, if you look at this guy's face, it's very similar to Alexander the Great, and I think actually he's probably based on him. He has the same sort of sullen, sunken eyes sort of structure here. But look at his face. He has sideburns. He has curly hair, or semi-curly hair, and sort of a bit of a beard growth there on the side of his jaw. And a lot of the ancient Greeks did. Not that I'm saying this guy on Mars is a Greek. I'm just saying he looks like a Greek statue. I'm not saying he is Greek. But I am beginning to wonder whether these ancient gods that they worshipped in ancient Greece and in the places like Egypt, I am beginning to wonder whether they actually were alien guys that were not only visiting Earth, like has been suggested, but also visiting Mars. And perhaps they were colonizing all over the place in our solar system, and there may be statues of these so-called gods wherever we go, not just on Mars and not just on Earth. They may be everywhere, and these may be the guys that were building all these pyramid structures like you see on Phobos and on the Moon and other places, and it could have been many millions of years ago. We don't know. I don't think it's that long ago. I think it's more like 25,000 years ago. I think these guys were around in Mesopotamia, in places like Iraq, the ancient Babylonians, the Anunnaki, they're often called, may well be the same people. Who knows? But this guy looks human. That's the point. So whoever was on Mars were either colonized by humans or they were human to start with. Or there may have been many different types of humanoids living on the planet Mars. We have no idea. This is pure speculation, of course. But this is one of the better finds I've found recently, just because the proportions are absolutely spot on. They really are. Just the shape of the jaw here, even though it's a heavily damaged picture, you can tell that looks human. It doesn't take much imagination to see that. And I really haven't enhanced it a great deal. I've blurred it and increased the contrast and brightness and stuff, and played around with just trying to bring out some of these shadow and highlights a little bit with the contrast. So not a great deal done to that, and you can see the similarities between some of these things. Right, let's go back to this one here. Let's let that play through, because it will show you that how he looks like Alexander the Great. You've probably already seen this anyway. And you can see I've cranked up the brightness a bit here as well in the video, just to make it a little bit clearer. And there's Alexander the Great on a coin here. This is probably dated back to about 300 BC or something. And he's often depicted with ram's horns. Eris, the ram, Ares, Mars. Eris, Ares. The words are almost identical. So, yeah, these things are all starting to interlock. You know, we're getting some of these things on Mars are starting to look like ancient Greece and ancient Egypt and ancient Mexico. You know, take your pick. You go to one part of Gale Crater, and you've got guys like this who looks like a statue that you might see in Peru or in sort of Mexico or somewhere like that. So this is more like an Olmec design, this one. Now this one, I've made a bunch of videos on this guy. One of my favourite finds here. This is why I put him on my app, because I just think it's a stunning image. Here he is here, look. Here's Cyclops here, and here's the new head statue, as I called it. There's the pyramid that I just published a few days ago. That's going crazy. People are going crazy for that. And there's the guy taking a leak behind the rock, dude. Or statue, whatever he is, as well. So you know, I thought I'd choose some of my better images to go on the app, and these are some of the better ones. So right, we've seen him, and you guys have probably seen this guy, but I'm just going to let that run through just to show you the differences. Now there are similar human proportions on show here, and as I've said before in some of my other longer videos, the proportions on these guys are perfectly human. They have humanoid looking chin, got a square chin like a human, quite well, not too, you know, brow ridges, but not heavily pronounced brow ridges, you know, not like a Neanderthal or something. This guy's nose looks like it may have been broken off on this particular thing, and he's laying back in the sand, so we're getting a slightly distorted view of this guy. And I actually think he looks less human than this guy, the one we were just looking at, the Alexander guy. And this, like I said in previous videos a long time ago, I actually think this guy had eyes inlaid here and they've fallen out. These are gaps where eyes would have been. So they're like eye sockets. And the eyes have actually fallen out, and I think he would have probably looked more like this and had inlaid eyes, possibly of opal or some other white coloured rock, semi-precious. So, but when you have such clear features, I mean the ear on this guy, the eye on this guy, and the gargoyle guy has got a very pronounced mouth. Let's go back a bit. No. Let's go to there. There we go. Look at the mouth. I mean, and he's got these sort of sunken, closed eyes, like a dead guy. I really think this is funerary art we're looking at here, because they look quite morose. The images, the depictions of these people look very sullen and like death masks almost. So, I mean, this guy looks fairly scary. Well, I think his other eye's fallen out, so that's why I call him Cyclops. But he probably had two eyes. But it's striking how similar to ancient mythology this stuff is looking. I'm flabbergasted by how similar some of these things are to what we have down here. And there's this guy, which I think was touched on by Will over at What's Up in the Sky in one of his videos, but he didn't do a close-up of it really. He just sort of gave a quick view of it, and I thought, oh wow, I'll do a close-up view of it and see what can be found. Now this is a terrible quality image, grungy as hell. These images, what they do, they go through White Sands Air Force Base, and they're processed once there. They're compressed by 30% there. Then they're sent to JPL. They go through them again and then recompress them by 30% again. So you've lost 60% of the image data or data. It's completely gone. So we're seeing 40% of the original image here, and it's only the larger objects are even worth looking at, or unless they're really close up. This guy's at a medium distance and is not that big but not that small, so this guy's right on the limit of what you can do with these images. And if you look at the state of this image, it's absolutely disgusting what they've done to it. Look at all these lines and compression marks. It's absolutely criminal, and it is basically breaking the law. If I was to do this to their images and then publish them and claim that they were raw images, I would be persecuted or prosecuted even. So what the hell are they doing? But we have to work with what we've got, and if you try and concentrate on the TIFF images, the large format TIFF images, and work with the Gigapan site as well, you generally get a better results than you will if you work with individual shots like this one. So-called raw images that have been blatantly obfuscated by as much as 60%. And I think some of them are probably even worse than that, even 90%. Because each time they process them, they lose a lot of the image information. But this guy looks more, I don't know what to think of this guy. This guy looks like a priest. Now this may be a death mask. It seems to have a long kind of split here. And the head doesn't go back very far. It's a very funny angle. The guy's lying on his side here, and he's got a bit of a neck here, and his chin and mouth. And there's just about make out some teeth here, and a rather small nose, and he almost looks like he's wearing a pair of sunglasses, but he's not. I think these are just large eye sockets here. But this is another example of a very badly obfuscated image from NASA. And it was really quite difficult to work with this one, because you get closer and it just gets worse. So I went back and started again. That was my first attempt, and did it from slightly further away so you can actually see a bit more detail. So that's what he looks like lying on the ground, and I've just added some contrast there. But you can see there's something going on here, and it does look like a death mask or some kind of burial mask, perhaps. Could be part of a statue, don't know. It's hard to tell. But this rather odd sort of shaped head here, I can't quite work that out. It's possibly quite badly damaged. There may have been parts of it broken off. The nose is almost non-existent on this guy, although there does seem to be something there. But you can see, if you kind of sit back a bit, you can actually see some teeth here. There's one there, and there's one there. But the compression lines almost completely ruin this picture, and I had to do a lot of work to try and get rid of those. And getting in too close doesn't really help at all. But you can see a tooth there. See that? One sticking up there, and I think one sticking down here, and perhaps one there. So, and you can almost make out the eye sockets here. It's really hard, and that's too close. I think it zooms back again now, and you'll see it a bit clearer. There we go. There's the raw image there. So now, does this style match what we're seeing with the Greek style and the Olmec style? Not at all. Absolutely not. No, this is completely different to a lot of the others that I've found and other people. This doesn't seem to match anything. This looks very alien indeed. Elongated, long skull. It kind of looks like some of those Egyptian depictions we see of some of the ancient kings of Egypt, where they had these huge, great big cone heads. Very strange. And that's why I call him the priest, because he looks like he's wearing a sort of priest style pointy kind of hat there. So that was that one. I mean, that was really difficult to get any detail from that, but that one's doing quite well, surprisingly, even though you can't see it that well. And what else do we have? We've seen the new head. We've seen that guy. I mean, there are similarities between these guys, you know, but they're not all the same. So I think we're looking at different periods of art, perhaps here. And the burial site was probably revisited and reworked, and new things were added over probably many thousands of years, like some of the sites we see in Egypt and in Central and South America. I really do think that this whole area, or at least parts of the Gale crater that we've driven through in the last year or so, there are buried buildings and pyramids and tombs all over the place, and we're just seeing the very, very top layer. And I really do think there'd be a multitude of wonderful, interesting, and quite staggering art and buildings and statues and that kind of thing, statuary and tomb artifacts and statuettes, and there'd probably be hieroglyphics, and there would be writing, and there would be perhaps even buried books, or you know, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced of this now. There have been so many finds recently, and a lot of them from me. And I have been saying this for quite some time now, and I think people are coming around to this idea now. And there was this guy. This guy was quite a long way off from those, but this kind of ties in somewhat with the ancient Greek and ancient Roman and ancient Egyptian sort of theme, because my interpretation of this is it looks a little bit like a Greek or a Roman helmet, or a Greek helmet, or some kind of old warrior helmet. Now, funny enough, if you look at pictures of this guy, hang on, not that one. Is it there? No, I know where it is, and we're on here, aren't we? We want this one. Sorry, I'm getting a bit lost here. I've got so much stuff up here. Now, if you look at this guy, Eris, the god of war, Mars, he has, not only does he look like the guy on Mars, but he's wearing a sort of Greco-Roman style helmet here. Now, if you look at some of these other depictions, now here's your typical Greek helmet, like you'd see in the film 300. Now, the Romans actually copied all their stuff. They worshipped the Greeks, really. The Greeks did everything first, and the Romans just came along and ripped it all off. And some of it they improved on, and some of it they made worse. So a lot of the helmets we see in Roman statues, they've just put a Roman helmet on a Greek god and then called him the Roman god. You know, that's pretty much what they did. But there are definitive styles of helmet which have the neck guard like this. Now, I may have got this completely ass backwards. This may be the hat. This may be the peak, like a peak cap, and this may be the back of the head, and this may be the back of the hat. I may have got this completely wrong. But if you look really carefully, now I'm going to let that play through a little bit. I'll just let the enhancements come up. Now, if you look really carefully, this I've interpreted as the back, like the back plate that covers your neck. And this here, I've interpreted as a chin and a mouth with some teeth. Now, when you see the enhancement, just pause it there. I've gone in a bit heavier with the contrast there. Now, if you look carefully, you can see some little divots here. And there's some very strange detail up on the top of this helmet, or whatever it is. Now, this may be carved, but I initially thought this was carved, but after really staring at this for a day and sharpening up a bit, I actually think this is metallic. And I actually think this is a dead alien's head in there. and that's his chin. A very small chin, and a very narrow mouth with very small teeth, a row of teeth there, and no nose, no sort of humanoid nose sticking out. As with the Cyclops statue and some of the other statues, they hardly have a nose at all. They just have a tiny little button nose with two little holes. So some of the Martians, if this is a Martian, may not be Martian, could be an alien, could be from another planet. Some of the Martians may not have had noses like humans at all. They could have had extremely small, flat noses, and looked more like the Greys or something like that, you know. And I've actually interpreted this as a visor. Now, if you look carefully, you can see these little holes here, and it looks like this is like a visor, like you would get on a crash helmet. Now, why is it not transparent, I hear you ask? Well, it may never have been transparent. It may be a metal visor, and there may be a hole, a spy hole, that we can't see, that's out of shot here. It could be at the front, because we're seeing it almost smack on from the side. Really odd. I'll play the enhancements through a little bit, because it does get a little bit more obvious when the enhancements come up. Really darkened it there, and there's some definitely interesting detail. This could be damaged at the top here, but there is a compression line going right through this, which I tried to get rid of, which comes right down here. That's a compression line, chromatic aberration, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's caused by the resizing of the images, not by me, but by NASA. So there is a line going right down through the middle of this thing, so try and ignore that. I think this here is a visor. I could be wrong. I could have got this completely around the wrong way. This is a sniper helmet from World War I, German, with an extra shield there to protect the forehead. Not the same shape, but similar sort of texture. If you look at the pitting on this possible metal object, it really comes out when you enhance it. You can see a lot more detail now, and I've really gone in quite hard and highlighted this just to bring out some of this detail. And now you can see what looks like a visor here. Now, also the mouth detail, chin here, if that is the chin. That could be the back of the head, and this could be the cap here rather than the back plate. I mean, it is swings and roundabouts with these things. It's really hard to tell, especially when you have cone-headed or elongated skulls like some of these guys seem to have. The helmet shape is all wrong. You know, if this was a human helmet, this would be much more round and be much lower here. It wouldn't go right up in a point like that. So it's very, very difficult to find a match for it. But I did find a few images of various Greek and Roman sort of style helmets that do look similar, which are coming up any second now. Yeah, here we go. And I'll come back to the German one again, mainly for the colour and texture. So I'll let that play through. Just going to have a swig of water a minute. I'm dying here. Okay, right, now the enhancements are coming up. Now this is a Salé French combat helmet. This is, I think, 15th century. Much rounder, as you can see. This is very pointed. And here's a Roman helmet, possibly Praetorian Guard, I'm not sure, judging by the bronze plate here. But basically, the main thing that I found similar was the back plate here, the neck plate, the neck guard, or whatever it's called. This thing is very pronounced, and basically it was there to stop people hacking your head off, you know, with a sword or something. That's very practical. It's a pretty good match. The shape and the general sort of design of that part of the helmet seems quite similar. And there's another Salé. This is German, also I think 15th, 14th, 15th century, possibly 16th. But as you can see, visors were often made of metal, and sometimes these slits here, these eye slits, were really small. Sometimes they have tiny, tiny, narrow little holes here, because obviously they didn't want anything poked in there, or someone shooting an arrow through it. So these got very, very small in some periods in the Middle Ages, because a good arrowsman or bowman could fire an arrow straight in there, especially at short range. So there's those comparisons there. So I enhanced it a bit more, and you can start to see now some teeth there in that little mouth. Extraordinary. I mean, I could be interpreting this completely wrong. I mean, some of you guys may think it's around the other way, and I could be wrong, but that's how I'm seeing it. And these strange nodules on the top of the helmet are very interesting. This may be damage. There may have been a plume coming off this, like a crest, like you see on some of the Roman helmets. I don't know if there's any in this video now, but they often had crests with feathers or hair coming off on top of these helmets, like here, you know, like these Roman style helmets like this. They would often have a crest. Now that was obviously the ancient Greeks were the first to do that, but the Romans copied that as well. You know, they liked it. And the weird thing is, even in places like Central and South America, they had crests on their helmets, and the sort of mohawk-looking design. So there must have been contact between these civilizations, on Earth at least, for them to all have such similar stuff. They must have been trading with each other across vast distances across the Atlantic Ocean, for them to have the same and similar artwork and the same design. A lot of them have the same religious icons, similar gods. A lot of the gods look very similar and probably are the same person or people that travel between them and between these different cultures, spreading various intelligence and technology. So who knows? These ancient gods on Earth may well have been ancient aliens, and they may well have visited Mars. And this may explain why this guy looks like an Olmec, and this guy looks like a gargoyle from a church, and this guy looks Greek, or perhaps Babylonian even. And this guy looks like he's from Peru or Mexico or somewhere. Olmec or South American style, you know. I mean, it's getting to a point now. I mean, I do recommend you check out some of my playlists here. I've done a load of new playlists recently, and they're all much shorter playlists. These are my top 60s, and I've done a whole bunch of them. But most of these playlists are only 20 or 30 minutes long. Some are a bit longer, but I wasn't getting that many views on my old playlists because some of these have got so many videos in. They're ridiculously long, hours and hours and hours. I mean, something you could spend days watching. So I recommend some of these shorter ones because these are much more bite-sized, more digestible, and I've only put my very best examples in these top 60s. So these are my top examples of each type of thing: shoes, bones, buildings, fossils, weapons, ships, boats, water, you know, and so on, moon buildings and structures. So yeah, check them out, and if you haven't downloaded the app already, I suggest you do. And don't worry if it tells you that it might, you know, your mobile phone says, oh, it doesn't want you to download this because it's a suspicious site. It's not suspicious at all. This is perfectly legit app maker market page here. It won't harm your device, I promise you. And anyway, you should have something like AVG that should scan everything that you download anyway, especially when you download an app. So if you've got proper security on your phone, then you've got nothing to worry about, because it will scan it for any adware. There's no ads on this. There's no dodgy stuff. So check it out. Extensive links. I cannot get across how many there are. I mean, if you're into this kind of thing and you want to look at Mars images, I mean, there is so much stuff here. It's unbelievable. And I actually designed this for me when I go on holiday, so that I don't need a laptop or a PC. And I went away for a couple of days this weekend, just gone, and it was absolutely invaluable. And that app is what I used to find this guy. and this image was clipped out on my mobile phone. I did a print screen thing on there when I found it off the Gigapan, and I started from there. So a lot of the work was done on my mobile. So it is possible, if you've got a half decent mobile phone, you can still do some work even when you're on holiday. So thanks for watching, everybody. Like I said, you can get this from my main page. Let me go to my main page a minute. Hang on. Let's go back to the video manager, and I'll show you where the link is. It'll also be in the description just below as well. But you can get it from my main page also. I'll just show you that now very quickly, and we're done. So yes, it's looking like Mars had a multitude of different styles of art. And on my main page here, there's the free app link. You just press on that, and that will take you right to the shop here, the free app. And you can download it, do what you like. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.